Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hi, this is Rob Charny with Old Guy Tech TV, and this is The Beat, and I'm here with my good friend Sheriff John DeAugustini of Dorado County. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good, Rob. Thanks.
Good. We got a little different format going on with this show, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. We're actually not sitting side by side anymore because we were always bumping elbows, or actually it would be this elbow. So this gives us a little bit more room to talk about some of the things we want to talk about. And there is a whole bunch of stuff in this I feel that you as the public watching the show, and the sheriff does as well, that you need to be aware of what's going on in our legislature's offices and what they're doing, in the county itself, in the sheriff's department itself. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. And I thought that maybe we might start with AB 953, because it really is an impact to the sheriff's department. And why don't you tell us all what it's all about?
Oh, Rob, this is how far to the other side we've gone. This is how far this pendulum swung. So this last legislative session, the Assembly floated a bill, AB 953. I brought some paper today.
Good.
And our governor signed this.
Of course.
And it formed the legislation was for to collect data on racial profiling. That was their intent.
Which is racial profiling in itself.
Which is
as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good point.
I
never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point. So out of that came the RIPA board, or RIPA's Racial Identifying Profiling Act, or Administrative Board, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And this is going to be run through DOJ, Department of Justice, all the data collection. But we did have sheriffs on the board, and chiefs of police. We had law enforcement, but a lot of it was typically in any board that's formed. A lot of non-government organizations, a lot of citizens,
right,
and lawyers, right?
Right.
So
got to have the lawyers.
They have come up with the data to be collected for this program. This is nuts. 4 pages. This is 4 pages. Of course, the data collection will be incorporated into whatever CAD or RMS system that the agency is running. So, report management system, the computers in the cars and in the office and whatnot.
Yeah, but they're still going to have to take all this paperwork and transfer
exactly.
it, right?
So what it boils down to is every individual contact that a peace officer makes with somebody in the field, anybody, they have to fill out, or they have to input documentation, input information on that contact. So we were talking earlier, Rob, you and I, and if they stop a car with 4 people in it, contact those 4 people, they have to fill out, they have to complete this information. Now, this is how far we've gone. These are the questions that are asked.
Get this, folks.
Originating agency identifier, that's a given. Date, time, and duration of the stop. Location. Perceived race or ethnicity of the person stopped. Perceived. Can't ask. Just perceived. Perceived gender of the person. The person stopped perceived to be LGBT. The perceived age, if we didn't get it, if we didn't run them. Person stopped has limited or no English fluency. Yes or no. Perceived or known disability of the person stopped. The reason for the stop. The stop made in response to a call for service. Yes or no. Actions taken by the officer during the stop. The basis for the search, if one was conducted. Contraband or evidence discovered, if any. Basis for the property seizure. The type of the property that was seized. The result of the stop. Officer's ID number. Officer's years of experience. And the type of assignment of that officer. San Bernardino's already kind of done a pilot to see how this is going to work. Because it was going to be January 1, The 9 largest agencies in the state were going to have to start collecting this data January 1. Because it's so robust and out there, they've at least got that extended until July 1st of 2018. But then the rest of the state goes on, I believe, January of 2021. But again, San Bernardino's already run a study. They're a large agency.
Yeah, they are.
They're big.
They're big. They're big.
Yeah. And when their estimated time rounded out to complete this information, they said 10 minutes. That got argued very heavily at the board, at the RIPA board. They said that's no way. But they don't understand that a deputy in the field or a peace officer in the field, they're looking over their shoulder. First, they got to find a safe place to complete this. Then they're looking over their shoulder. So they're just not going through totally immersed because they're always watching what's going on around them. They have to. That's officer safety. Right. So they figured 10 minutes to fill all this information out per individual.
Per contact.
Yeah. Given their statistics today on contacts, that would equate to 30 positions per year. That's the equivalent. They would need 30 positions to be able to keep up with that. That's not counting the extra staff to compile, review, make sure there's not anything in there that gives any identifying features, because we can't collect that. That's why it's all perceived. We can't put in identifying to cover all that. So the support staff to do all that. This is outrageous.
Now, is this an unfunded mandate?
An unfunded mandate.
There you go.
The question is asked, so how are we going to pay for this?
Right.
Are we going to get reimbursed? They said, well, you can put in your claim. There's paperwork attached to the DOJ's website for that, and we'll do that. However, keep in mind that no claims have been paid, I think, since 2013 on things like this.
That's good.
This is, and one of the worst things, and I shouldn't even have to worry about this, but as an administrator, I am worrying about this.
Right.
Because an older deputy, somebody that's been on the job for 10, 15 years or more, they see somebody driving down the street, they're going to make a proactive enforcement stop. Person rolls a stop sign, fails to signal, whatever. For whatever reason, they see that car as a possible, maybe the person has a warrant, maybe they have drugs in the car or whatever. This is what we do. We look for this stuff.
Right.
When you get the, for lack of a better term, the old crap look from a driver, when they're driving down the road, they look over, they see the cop, and they go, oh.
Yeah.
They're not going to do
signals.
that anymore. They're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Too much paperwork. Heck with that. I'll wait for something that I get a call on, and I'll deal with it.
I didn't even
this
think
is
about
scary.
that.
This is not good law. For what? To try and see if we're stopping different ethnic groups or sexual orientation or whatever it is. What's the purpose of that? In El Dorado County, I can guarantee you that 99.9% of the contacts we make are probably white.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's what our population is. If you go to Chicago and their PD, I bet 99.9% of their stops are black.
Right.
It is what it is.
And I made a joke. I basically said, how is this not racial profiling now in itself? So, oh my goodness, this is just...
So I asked Rob not to bring this up first because I was going to get wound up.
I wanted to get you wound up.
So that's what we're dealing with. That was out of this year's legislative session. It's going to be interesting to see. I think, in my reading of the law, when 953 was signed, prior to what the RIPA board has come out with, I think the RIPA board has gone way too far in their strategy or what they want done. And I believe if the 9 largest county pilot to get this thing started doesn't just overwhelm the system and it implodes,
right,
then I think at least by then there will be some type of case law behind it that limits it to just that information that was discussed or documented in the law in 953 and not all this other extra stuff.
Well, you have a contact card anyway, right? I mean, you have...
Yeah, that's exactly.
So it's like, oh my God. So now we're doubling up on paperwork.
Oh, we're 10 times.
Yeah. And now we're taking officers away from what they really need to do, is be on the streets and doing their stuff, and they got to spend all this time doing this paperwork. You know what? Every one of those people on the RIPA board need to do a ride-along in a city like L.A. or some of the big places and see what this is going to take so that they understand it.
They need to go spend a week.
Oh, well, yeah, whatever.
A week in a car with a cop.
Yeah, and watch what it takes.
And they need to go through a simulated use of force simulation simulator. They need to get involved. They need to go to a ground fighting, an arrest and control, boxing. They need to get into all the stuff that we deal with,
right?
And maybe open some of their eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else you can make a decision like this unless you've walked a mile in the officer's shoes to understand what this is going to take. And again, I'm surprised that we don't have some of the groups like the ACLU going, wait a minute, how is this not profiling in itself?
That's a good point.
You know?
That's been brought up.
Yeah. And I wanted you guys to hear about this because this is just incredible what's going on. So with that said, I mean, that gets the information out that we need to get out, so you guys understand, and the sheriff will keep us abreast of how this goes on as we do our show, and we'll keep you abreast of what's going on with this thing. But this is just crazy. Did you want to talk about the Jim Cooper?
That's a perfect lead into
All
this. Right. So a week ago, I think it was a week ago Monday now. It was October 30th, I guess. I stood on the Capitol steps with Assemblyman Jim Cooper from Elk Grove, a Democrat out of Elk Grove, who he's got a D before his name, but keep in mind this is a retired captain from Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. He's got a good feel.
He was on TV a lot.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He actually ran against Scott Jones in that first time that Scott ran.
Right.
He's a good guy. And then also Sacramento County District Attorney Anna Marie Schubert is also co-sponsoring it with him. Now, this is not a bill. This is going to be a California initiative. It will be on the ballot if we can keep this momentum going. It doesn't have a title yet. It doesn't have a number yet, so I don't have that for you. But what it's going to do is fix some of the shortfalls or the iniquities or whatever you want to call it that Prop 47 and Prop 57 created. Some of those fixes are it adds 15 new offenses to the list of violent crimes that Prop 47 and Prop 57 reduced from violent to nonviolent, such as human trafficking of a child. That will now be a violent felony.
Yeah, good.
As it should be.
Yes.
Rape of an unconscious person, assaulting a police officer. Those have all been reduced, and under Prop 57 are eligible for early release, people that are in prison for that. So it fixes that. Another thing it fixes is it reinstates the DNA collections for offenses, for offenders convicted of drug and petty theft charges that were reduced from felonies to misdemeanors under Prop 47. So when all those felonies that we had were reduced under Prop 47 to misdemeanors, we can no longer collect DNA. And a perfect example was given today. If we arrest somebody for possession of heroin, a misdemeanor, we're not able to collect DNA on that person, where prior to that it was a felony. Now, that person, their last conviction was maybe 3 years ago. We're just now arresting them today again for possession of heroin. In this last 3 years, they've committed 3 rapes. Those, we'll never solve those.
Yeah, because you don't have the DNA.
Because we can't collect the
right.
DNA.
Absolutely.
So it fixes those issues. Serial thefts. You've heard me say on the show before, $950. It raised the threshold from 460 something to be a felony to 950, and it didn't let them aggregate. So you can literally go into Walmart today, steal $950 or less than $950 worth of stuff. It's a misdemeanor. Go in at lunchtime, steal another $950 worth of stuff. It's still a misdemeanor. And tonight, do it again. It's a misdemeanor. This will get rid of that. It'll allow an aggregate, and it will when someone is caught for the third time stealing more than $250 worth of goods, it will be a felony. So it fixes that issue with Prop 47.
Good.
And it also requires that the State Board of Parole considers an inmate's entire criminal history when reviewing their parole status or if they're up for parole, rather than just their last conviction. Because we all know that was the whole thing with 3 strikes. It was great.
Right.
Just because this last conviction wasn't crazy, wasn't a serious felony, all your prior criminal history were serious. So it allows them to, it doesn't allow them, it requires them to look at the entire criminal history. This is a good start. This is a really good start to fix the problems that 47 and 57 have created.
Right.
One of the, they're looking for some major support in this. I believe that they were, they have the Retailers Association, which is a huge lobbying group.
Right.
And the Grocers Association, I guess, which is a huge lobbying group as well. So if we can keep this momentum going, they can get it on the ballot. This is where everything got screwed up.
Yeah.
This is where we fix it.
Right.
I am encouraging everybody, counties like El Dorado, 47 didn't pass in El Dorado, 57 didn't pass in El Dorado. We're pretty good here. But we all have friends in the saltwater counties. We all have friends and family that live in
By
LA,
the coast. Yep.
Santa
Monica,
San Diego,
all of those. Yeah, all those.
saltwater, San
that's right.
Francisco. We have
Right.
friends and family. I guarantee you they didn't read 47 or 57. They saw some commercial and said, oh, that sounds good. The
Gee.
Safe Neighborhoods
Yeah.
and Schools Act.
Yeah.
The Public Safety and Rehabilitation Act.
Sounds nice, doesn't it?
Sounds nice.
Nice
We're gonna
fuzzy
vote
words.
yes.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to call all their friends and family in the saltwater counties, get them up to speed, tell them to read the law, understand what it is, let's fix this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be looking for a name and once if they collect enough signatures, which I'm going to believe that they're going to, because one of the things was amazing to me is that the loss preventative people that work in these big stores, their whole thing is they're rarely doing anything anymore because somebody's stealing under that $900+ type of thing. So there's nothing they can do. I mean, they're almost holding the door open for the criminal to come on, take the stuff and go out because
You're right.
You're
right. We've had, and I don't know if I brought this up before, but we literally had one here at Walmart where we had a suspect come in the morning, and this is what they do. The first place they go is they go to the electronics aisle and they steal a calculator.
Yep.
They grab a calculator, they open the case, they make sure it's working, and then they start going around and they add up until it gets to less than $950.
Yes.
And then they walk out the door with it. Well, we had one of those a few months ago. I guess it was early summer. They called us. By the time we got there, which was not a long response, the suspect was already gone.
Yeah.
They got him walking out the door.
Didn't take long to hit.
He was already gone. Later that afternoon, we were back at Walmart dealing with another one of these suspects that we actually they caught and we cited for a misdemeanor. But they got their property back.
Yeah.
While we were handling that call for service, this same suspect from the morning came in or was walking out again with another cart full of just under $950. The loss prevention officer said, hey, that's the guy from earlier. The deputy reached out, said, hey, I need to talk to you. The suspect said, up yours or whatever. The deputy reached out and grabbed him, and the fight was on.
Oh, jeez.
So by then, a couple other deputies were there. They ended up finally getting this guy into custody, and he's screaming, it's only a misdemeanor. It's only a misdemeanor. The deputy said, you're not going to jail for the misdemeanor. You're going to jail for resisting arrest. The suspect said, well, but I have serious mental illness. He says, well, what is that? What's your illness? He says, I have multiple personality disorder. He says, really? How many personalities do you have? He said, 3. He said, great, all 3 of you are going to jail.
I like that. That was good thinking on his part.
Yes.
But that's a perfect example of what's going on. And and if you're a small mom and pop shop, you can't afford this stuff walking out the door. You just can't. It'll close you down, and it has. And so, yeah, this is definitely something that needs to be corrected. And I love the way they come up with these nice, warm, fuzzy names for these things. And then, like you said, people don't read it. They said, "Oh, sounds fuzzy and good. I'll just vote for it." So
yeah, I think the loss. There was a study already done. The loss is in the billions of dollars.
Oh, I believe it.
In California.
Oh, I believe it. I forgot what I had a little insight with Walmart and what was going on. I forgot just even our little store alone. The amount of loss they're calculating was in the thousands.
Who pays for that?
Well, we do.
We do. That's the markup on everything else. We end up paying for that.
Yeah, well, they build it into their costs now. I mean, it's right. That shrinkage that's going on in these stores is not good. It's never been good, and then somebody's aunt ought to be slapping that person and saying, "Hey, we didn't raise you this way. What's wrong with you?" People just blow my mind. So. I want to talk about this. This is kind of a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. Is Prop 63, and Prop 63, or actually, yeah, it was Prop 63 is the ammo purchase bill that's coming into effect. It starts January 1, but doesn't really. It's 18, and really goes into effect in 19. But just for those of you that don't know what's going on here in California with this bill, and by the way, CRPA and GOC and none of the others are again going to court to try to get this stopped. But what it's making is that the only way that you can purchase ammunition in California starting January 1, 2018 is face-to-face across-the-counter purchase. You cannot buy online on the internet. You can't go to Cabela's or whatever and buy ammunition and get it shipped to your home. That's gone. They took that away. The other thing they did with it is that you also can't drive up to Cabela's in Nevada, buy a bunch of ammunition, and come across the border. And because then you're breaking the law. My argument with that one, and Sam Parada's, by the way, Sam says to say hi to you, John. He and I were talking this morning about this, and it's a big problem with interstate commerce. You're not supposed to be able to stop people from coming across from any state with interstate commerce. That's what it's all about. But anyway, California says, we're California, we're going to do what we want to do. Believe it or not, they're trying to work with the Department of Agriculture so that when you go across to the ag inspection station, they're going to say, do you have any apples, fruits, plants, or ammunition? Don't you love it? You can't, if you buy ammunition out of state, let's say you go hunting. You buy ammunition out of state, you buy a box of 20, let's say, you're a fairly good shot, you shoot 10 times. Well, guess what? That extra 10 rounds, you cannot bring it back into California. You have to leave it in another state. And this was signed by Governor Brown. Of course, this is going to stop all bad things. So we are hoping that along with the high-capacity magazine bill that is on hold right now, and which is horrible, they're going to court, my understanding from talking to those in the know, within the next 2 weeks to try to get, if everything goes right, a stay on this as well, because it's just totally wrong. There's no way this can continue. So I just wanted to bring, that was my informational item to the public to understand, because everybody's asking me at my CCW classes, what's going on with this. Well, right now it doesn't look good. So I wanted everybody to understand that.
It's funny though. I talked to a couple of buddies that I have that sell ammunition, that are ammo store owners,
right? And
they've contacted DOJ to talk about getting their seller's permit or whatever, the vendor's license,
right,
or whatever it is,
right?
And DOJ has no process yet.
No.
They still don't have a process.
No.
I've also talked to two individual online companies,
right,
that sell ammunition that I bought quite a bit of ammunition online from,
mm-hmm.
and asked them, hey, what's going to go on with this? You're not going to ship ammo to California anymore? And the two that I spoke with said, that's a state law.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Mm.
We'll still ship it. It's up to you. When you go pick it up at the post office, you're the one that's in trouble. It's ridiculous.
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know which two that you talked with, but I was on Cheaper Than Dirt recently, and they popped up a thing says, we know you're in California. You need to buy your ammunition now because after Jan 1 we won't sell. Yeah. So
mine are a little bit off they're not major sellers.
Yeah, well,
They're little dealers, but good
Yeah.
prices.
yeah, absolutely. And there's a number of them. I've seen it on 2 online sales departments right now. Yeah, and they're both saying after Jan 1 we will not sell to California. So yeah, it's not good. And the problem is that technically it could make it would be a misdemeanor the first time if that UPS driver drops off a box literally at your house, and somebody's got a beef with you, and you got law enforcement watching it, and he sees that there's a box that has the ODR stamp on it, which is an ordnance stamp that goes on every ground shipment of ammunition. So all you have to do is see it. They know what you're getting. Who knows where that's going to end up, and you're going to have to fight that one. So we're really
wrong.
Oh boy, I got to tell you,
This is
but
wrong.
this is so wrong. Here's the one tiny little good news. If you're a reloader, if you reload ammunition, you're not affected at all. You can buy the components, bullets, powder, cases, primers, whatever you need, online, gets shipped to you, and you can reload it yourself. Not in this bill at all. So, fortunately, we have microstamping on hold. I think we talked about that before. We have the high-capacity magazine deal on hold. We've got, so I think this one, there's got to be some kind of common sense. My worry, and when I was talking to Sam Paradas of Gun Owners of California this morning, my worry was that between Las Vegas and Texas, we're going to get an awful lot of Californians. My heart breaks for all these people that were injured and killed at these situations. But you got to remember, we're talking about mentally ill people. These guns didn't do it. It's mentally ill people that did it. And so we're hoping that doesn't totally sway everybody to saying, oh, we've got to stop this. But we'll see what happens, because we don't know what judge we're going to see. You never know in the Ninth Circuit where it's going to go. And so that's one of the things that's going on with ammunition.
And who ended up stopping that evil guy in Texas?
A former NRA firearms instructor, and he used exactly the same firearm that the bad guy used, which was his legally owned AR. And my understanding is he did mortally wound the subject, stopped the shooting as this guy fled, and they pursued him. So it was a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun.
Absolutely.
And that's what we always say. That's what it takes. It's not we don't always want to be sheep. I'm not going to sit there and be unarmed when somebody's shooting at me. I want to be able to at least defend myself and my family and friends and people around me. So they're making it worse. They're not making it better. So sorry about that. All you anti-gunners out there, you have it totally wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, so that was my rant. I got that rant going here. Let's talk about it is. Did you have anything else on any other proposed legislation coming up that you're aware of?
Not
Or
that
did
I'm
we
aw-
cover we covered that already, didn't we?
covered 'em, yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered that already.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the Sheriff's Department itself and about some things that are going on. We know we got a new facility, hopefully coming on board soon, and my understanding is you're going to be signing a contract soon and maybe having a little.
Sure,
Yeah.
We went through it was actually a great process. It was this whole design, build, delivery method is fantastic. How it works. So we went through the process of the RFP through with the 3 contractors that came out of the RFQ, the request for qualifications. All 3 submitted fantastic quotes. Just one floated to the top through an objective scoring process. We entered negotiations with that top firm. We started out the target budget was $50 million. They came in at $53.4 million. We set a target for negotiations at $49 million to build in our own $1 million worth of contingency.
Right.
Within about it was a day and a half. It was one Wednesday, 1 week, all day, and then by 11:30 the following week on Wednesday, we had settled on everything that we wanted programmed into the building, everything that we needed that was in the criteria documents, and we settled on $48,970,000.
Wow.
So we go to the board next Tuesday, November 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning. For approval of that contract. This is a big meeting. This is a big decision on the board. I get this. If we can get this show out before November 14th, and anybody sees that and you can make it, that would be much appreciated. It's a 10 o'clock specific meeting.
We'll work on getting this up and out.
This is a big step. So
what you'd like is a lot of us to show up to help support the Sheriff's
that'd
Department.
be great.
Okay.
That'd be great. If
Put it on the calendar.
If it's approved, then we go to work. We go to work to final design. Everything's very preliminary right now, but we have the basic ideas down on paper that'll be presented at the board, conceptuals and things like that. Mm-hmm. The schedule shows design all the way through March of next year. In the dirt, March of next year, along with the permitting processes and everything else is going on at the same time. In the dirt in March, substantial completion in June of 19, where we will actually be able to get into the building and start setting up equipment, hooking up equipment, getting dispatch center online, the EOC online, and then final completion in October of 19, where we'll be full occupancy. So this is exciting.
Yeah.
One of the presentations that they're going to be showing at the board is a video of a basic walk around and fly around of the building,
virtual
3D modeling from the contractor, and it's real now. It's real. It's exciting.
This is for those of you that haven't been watching our show. I've been talking about that poor Sheriff's Department and the facilities they've been in for years now. It needed replacement 30 years ago.
We just had another one. Everybody here's heard the story about the rats and the 40 cal ammunition that they got down into the plumbing system. They came up through our magazine is in the old jail.
Yeah.
And they came up through the plumbing in the old jail and got into our ammunition and carted off a few thousand rounds of ammo down into the old plumbing. Well, now we were experiencing some shutdowns in dispatch, trying to figure out what was going on. There's some redundant glass lines. What do they call that?
Yeah, fiber optic.
Fiber optic lines
Right. Mm-hmm.
that go across to the jail, across the freeway to the jail, underground, under the underpass, the Ray Lawyer overpass, and then up to the jail. And we were just having lines go down. Well, everything was pulled very redundant. We pulled a lot of line when they did it years ago. So they kept having to go into the server rooms and
keep switching lines,
finding lines that were live, trying to figure out what's going on. So we couldn't figure it out. We had somebody else come out with some testers, and all of the breaks were so many thousand feet from the jail and so many hundred feet from dispatch, and we ended up finding a D-box out in the middle of nowhere between dispatch and the freeway, and opened it up, and here's a nice big nest and all the fiber optic wires shredded up and a nice little rat's nest. It's nuts. Lord. It's crazy.
That is crazy. They get in everywhere. I've had my own issues with that. they're not really good.
But that's just another little thing. But it's finally time. It's finally going to happen. A lot of people support, a lot of phone calls. We really appreciate that. When it's first been talked about since 1984, 1989 on paper, and kept getting kicked down the road. But it's a very total. What do I want to say here? We included everybody in this process.
Right.
We had a lot of community meetings. We looked at it very holistically. Do we really need this? If we do, what do we need? Really worked on building community will.
A lot of public input on this, and expert input, and and if you know the Sheriff's Department here in El Dorado County at all, unfortunately because of size, I mean they have a lot of these little leases that they've got for places, and you're outgrowing those, and the talk has always been really need to be in one location so that everybody can have that water cooler discussions that we talked about, and
then coming up with that finance, the USDA rural development money, 2 3/8% for
can you believe
years.
That's amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I can't see how the supervisors can say anything, but absolutely, let's sign this and get it going.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
we got. I can. The first rule of, I hate to use the P word, but politics is you just got to count to 3.
Yeah.
And I think we're very solid on 3. 1 or 2, I'm not so sure about, but we'll be all right. We'll get there.
Maybe we'll talk about it later, and I'll see if I can't get people to start calling. That would be a good thing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be really good. So let's talk about it's at now the staffing, and we talked about the hot team. Why don't you explain about that and
so
where we're going?
Well, the hot team kind of leads into the staffing. Our hot team, and I don't think have we ever talked about it on the show before?
No, we haven't. This will be new.
So these guys are phenomenal. I mean, our staff, our people at the sheriff's office are, God bless them, they do great stuff. So obviously the homeless issue has been a big issue in El Dorado County for years, even before Hangtown Haven way back when. That was the reason they tried to fix some of it with Hangtown Haven.
Right.
That ended up being a big bird feeder effect where you put it out, they will come.
Yep.
But we were the ones that got the brunt of the calls. When people called their supervisors, they called their city council, they called whatever, we deal with the homeless. And again, there's 3 types of homeless. I know we've talked about that on the show. There's the mentally ill that just need services and different things that we can do to help them out. There's those that are homeless by no fault of their own. Again, we can help them and we can work with them. There are services out there. And then the homeless who want to be homeless, who are antisocial, criminalistic behavior, that just they don't care.
Right.
So those are the 3 populations. We can't do anything for those other than that's the total enforcement part of our vision statement that we end up dealing with them.
Right.
So this is how it literally happened. The undersheriffs in my office, we're talking about the homeless, and doggone it, we got 3 calls on it. We got to figure out this. We got to do this. He had to go to another meeting. He walks out of my office, runs into a lieutenant in the hallway. Lieutenant says to the undersheriff, "How you doing, undersheriff?" He goes, "Oh, I'm doing all right." And he goes, "What's the matter? What can I do for you?" And he goes, "Fix the homeless problem," in a rhetorical sort of way. And the lieutenant took off, assigned a sergeant and 2 deputies, assigned them to do all the research that they could, how to deal with homeless, and they come up with a plan.
Wow.
And they're rocking. They're doing a fantastic job. The first thing they did was with mapping software and our CAD system, our report management system, is they mapped all of the homeless in the county. Mm-hmm. They went around and they spent a few weeks and they identified, located every homeless person that they could possibly find all over the county. That's from Tahoe all the way to El Dorado Hills. And then they started identifying what we called super users. This is a perfect example of a super user. They will literally call 911 on their free phone, call 911, say they have chest problems, ambulance shows up, they get in the ambulance takes them to Marshall in downtown Placerville, they get out of the ambulance, say, "Oh, I feel much better," and walk away. They were using the ambulance as a taxi service. Identified those super users. Now, unlike years ago where you had somebody like that, you could say, "Hey, let me give you a ride down to Sacramento," right? We can't do that anymore. That's not
yeah, the old days of dropping them over the county line doesn't work anymore.
We can't do that anymore. But what we can do is we can do what's called a warm handoff. So with those super users, they started doing research and looking for family and friends wherever in the United States they were. And then through Health and Human Services, we're able to obtain, after a long road, but we're able to obtain travel vouchers and got them out of here. Another thing that they've done is the last year, we had over 500 fires started by our homeless population. Wow. Most of them were little, and they got out.
Good thing.
But we had quite a few that got pretty big. The one behind Walmart or Kmart, that was a homeless fire.
Yeah.
The one down in Shingle Springs by the power facility, by PG&E's distribution plant there, that was a homeless fire. Homeless fires, quite a few other big ones. This year, we've had one, just through identification, education, letting them know, posting signs, doing whatever with them. We've had one. The calls for service have dropped regarding homeless. Homeless have went down like 80-some%. It's been fantastic.
That's a huge number, yeah.
It's huge.
Wow.
But I bring that up because this is a perfect example of working smarter, not harder. Because trust me, everybody knows me. I'm not a big touchy-feely guy. And when they first came to me with the plans on how to deal with these homeless, I said, really? Come on. Are you sure this is going to work? And by God, it works. It's absolutely, the numbers are showing it's working. So, again, that's a fine example of working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And with everything that we've been doing over the years, especially since I've come in 2011, we have continually looked for ways to work harder, not smarter. When I first came in, you'll remember early shows that we did, talked about the cuts I took right off the bat and wiping vacant positions off the books. We have 374 employees on the books today, full-time employees. That's the exact same number that we had in 2003. And when I say exact, it's eerie in that it's the same number of correctional officers, same number of deputy sheriffs, same number of dispatchers, same number of fiscal techs, same number of sheriff's techs. It's across the board nearly exactly the same with just a few exceptions. Mm-hmm. So,
and the population grew.
And the population's grown. And Rob actually told me, he's told me quite a few times, there's going to come a time. Be careful that you need to start building your staff. You're getting behind. And I said, yeah, I know, but we're dealing with it. And quite honestly, and I've said it on this show too, this facility is so important to the future of El Dorado County Sheriff's Office that I didn't want to rock the boat. But now I'm starting to rock the boat. Last year I made a veiled ask for staff, knowing it was going to get turned down by the Board of Supervisors. If you look at just the numbers, just the pure numbers for population, in 2003 the population was 167,000. Today it's right at 185,000. That's an 11% increase in population in roughly 14 years. Yeah. Now, if we had 374 staff in 2003, the same number that we have today, and you just add that same number, 11%, to serve that increase in population, right? That's 41 new staff members that we're behind. Mm-hmm. That puts us, we should be around 415. Now that's just a very simple, easy number to use. If you use staffing studies, if you use calls for service, all of that, they all bear kind of the same numbers. So this year, and the supervisors know this, I've been talking to them both as the board. They've heard it at the board meetings and individually when I run into them. I've been asking to make an investment in public safety. That's the easiest way that I can make it feel good to them. Right. Public safety is one of the number one issue or goal in the county strategic plan. We've never seen that target, which is in the general plan, of an 8-minute response time to the core area, which is so many miles north and south of 50 from the county line up to about above Pollock Pines. So I'm going to start making that ask. We need to start getting back up to staff, and it's not just deputies that we need, which you typically associate with the sheriff's office. It's not just deputies.
Yeah, support staff.
It's support staff. It's detective. It's records techs to deal with some of these issues like AB 953 that we talked about earlier. Right. It's support staff to be able to get our extensive waits for CCWs back down in line to be reasonable. It's everything. Right. So I'm going to start that conversation, or I have started that conversation, and I'm going to start harping on it pretty heavy here with the Board of Supervisors, especially going into this next budget cycle. One of the ideas that I have floated that seems to be gaining traction. And if you talk to one of your supervisors, I put it like this: if you just say the sheriff's office needs bodies, they need personnel. For whatever reason, that seems that term bodies, that term personnel, is a buzzword for ongoing cost to the county, which it is.
Right.
But they seem to hang up on. But when you use the term an investment in public safety,
Mm-hmm.
it feels better. And what I'm going to start with, and what I've been asking for, and talking to them, is a $500,000 investment in public safety, compounded for the next 6 years. So, $500,000 of ongoing costs in this next budget, $1 million of ongoing costs in the second year, $1.5 million the third year, and so on until we get to 6 years, which will be a $3 million ongoing personnel allocation to the sheriff's office. $3 million will get me right around, depending on where they are and what classifications they are, just under 30 bodies. So between 25 and 30 bodies, and dispersed around the agency as we need for service delivery.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's a good target to make. I think that's a good start, a good way to get there. It's not going to break the bank.
Right.
The organic growth of the county covers that sixfold. So at least sixfold. So I think that we're in a good spot, a good negotiation with enough data that we'll be able to make that happen.
Seems very reasonable with the growth that we're seeing right now in the county, and all the projected growth that's coming in within the next. Well, you look out the next 10 years, and there's a pretty big projection of. I don't know. They're talking about 30,000 some new homes, apartments, or residents, and all that. So we're going to see a much larger number of bodies. So you gotta just have your staff. You just do.
It's time to start moving in that direction.
And you mentioned CCW, and what you have something that you're going to be announcing. That some of us are working with that really help speed along some of the issues that some of the people have had, and you're doing the best you can do, and that's what I tell everybody, that you're doing the best you can do. So things are going to improve.
Yeah, it will. When CCW's, I've said this before on the show, 748 when I came in, right at 5,000 now. So that there in itself shows the workload that our staff are doing. Mm-hmm. Same amount of staff. Mm-hmm. That many more CCWs.
It was quite a large number. I was really surprised to hear it, that it's that high, but good for us.
We're still getting 20, 20, 30 a week.
Yeah.
New applications.
Well, I'd like to know where they're going, but that's another story. I had a great call yesterday. I'll share the call from you. A guy calls me up and he says, just basically moved into Cameron Park. I said, I just want you to know I'm a displaced Texan. He said during the hurricane that his 60 acres was 20 feet underwater.
Oh. So
he said, I'm going to have to be out of there for a couple of years. So we decided to come to California, and we ended up in El Dorado County. And he says, and so the first thing I did is I went to look at CCWs, found out that I can get a CCW, and he called me up. He's going to be taking my next class. And he was all excited. And I said, well, you landed in the right county, because it wouldn't have taken much to land in the wrong one. So, he was talking, and I had to warn him about a few things that, you can't have in California that you can have in Texas. So he was kind of disappointed in a couple of things. I said,
welcome to California.
Yeah, welcome to California. That's the other thing that we're looking at. Just for you folks, in California, we have what's called a roster of approved firearms for sale within California. And really quick, it's a bunch of BS, but California is looking for certain things within firearms, and the major thing is that it must have a magazine disconnect. That means that if there's not a magazine within the magazine well of a semi-automatic firearm, if you have a round in the chamber, you can't fire it, which doesn't make any sense. You need every last bullet you can get. So they want that, and they do what's called a drop safety test. however they do it, and certain features you have to have a chamber indicator loader within that firearm as well. So needless to say, the way they set up this process, the manufacturers have to send a number of guns of every make and model that they want to sell within the state of California, and it's got to be approved, and then they get on this roster. And here's the extortion part. If they want to continue the next year selling that same gun, they have to pay a fee to stay on the roster. So California wants to, they're doing everything they can do to keep guns out of California, and it's crazy. And we have a manufacturer, I just heard recently, Glock, which is a very popular gun, of course, and they do make a nice concealed carry firearm, has said this could be, 2018 could be the last year of approved Glock guns in California. So there's a major manufacturer already saying we've had enough. So that's also one of the things that we're looking at with the gun groups that support us, and we need you to support them: NRA, CRPA, GOC, Cal Guns. There's a number of organizations. If you can afford anything to give those guys some money to help out, because they're paying big dollars to these attorneys to try to get things right, I recommend it. There's easy ways of doing it, and so that's enough of my stumping about what needs to be done. But if you're into firearms at all and understand the situation, you need to help, and we need everybody's help on that. So, we covered an awful lot of stuff. We did really good. The show went 52 minutes. We've been doing really good. We normally try to hold to 30 minutes, but you know what? John and I haven't been doing this every month like we were for a while, so we've taken a little bit of a hiatus on this. And I hope that you find this show in the information that the sheriff is willing to come out and talk about. And what I'm going to do is, when the next show we do here, we're certainly going to announce it, make a bigger announcement, and maybe even go live stream with it as well. So maybe we can take some phone calls again like we used to. So we're going to see what's going to happen on that. There's some technical issues that we have to deal with. But I want to say thank you very much to Sheriff DeAugustini for coming on in and spending the time with us and letting us know, what's going on in the Sheriff's Department. The show is called The Beat now. And because we just don't want to talk about crime, we want to talk about everything and look at all the great things that they're doing here. And I really hope that this AB 953 goes away for you, because I see nothing but bad things. Yes, just time consuming. We need you guys out there doing the job that we want them to do, and not just sitting behind the computer doing their paperwork. So we'll see what happens with that. So with that, once again, John, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it a lot. And thank you guys for watching us, and we'll see you next time on The Beat.